Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Audrey Rindlisbacher, author of The Mission Driven Life and founder of The Mission Driven Mom. If you are a woman who has tried everything, you feel like you're doing everything right to the best of your ability and trying really hard. If you're reading books or you're signing up for online courses or you're in therapy or gone to conferences and you still feel unsure of yourself and stuck and frustrated and overwhelmed, then I want to tell you, I want to reassure you that it is not your fault. Most women don't struggle because they don't try hard or they're not sincere. Most women actually try genuinely really hard, and they're quite teachable and ready to learn and ready to change when they just know the right path to take. It's not because of your lack of effort. It's because you don't have the proper tools. And I know a lot of people tell you that, and I know that sounds like the song and dance of so many people online, but I'm here to tell you there's something very ancient that's going to feel very new that can radically change your trajectory in life, because it radically changed mine and it's helped hundreds and hundreds of women that have gone through our program. I'm going to explain why you've done all the things you knew to do and you've given life your best effort, but you have been left very unprepared. And if you're anything like me, you feel cheated because you genuinely tried your best and life just left you hanging. Like you just don't feel prepared for this super important moment in your life. And you probably feel powerless even though you're trying super hard. So recently someone asked me, why do women feel so stuck, especially moms? Why do we feel like this? And if you're anything like I was, you keep waiting for the next resource and you have tried so many things. You've probably tried spiritual things, not to say that God wasn't there and didn't love you and that going to church isn't super incredibly helpful. You absolutely need those things and you've tried them and they've helped, but you're still not there. Maybe you tried the next level of education, but you're still not there. And you get to this point, you kind of hit this wall like I did, where you realize I keep doing all the things that the world tells me to do, and they just don't help. In fact, sometimes they can actually make things worse. I knew a group of women who wanted to improve their parenting. Things weren't going well at their houses. And so they found a parenting book and they all decided to read it and do whatever the book said. And I don't know exactly how this author said it, but one of their primary takeaways from this book was that if their children fought with each other and struggled, they should just simply ignore them. That if they left it alone, somehow the kids would just all work it out. And guess what? Things got worse in their houses because they didn't have the ability to discern the truth from error and to live according to principles. Now, you and I both know that what we really want is the ability to discern truth, to have confidence on our own decisions, to be able to look out into the culture and not be repeatedly overwhelmed and confused by it. And what happens is we go out there, we try to find answers, and the world says all sorts of things. It says, follow your dreams. It says, do what you love. It says, ask yourself what you want. And those are all the wrong answers. In fact, I'll give you one quick example. My daughter is a senior in high school and she's making decisions about what's coming in her future. And some things didn't work out in the last couple years the way that she hoped that they had. And so she's not where she thought she would be. And that's been overwhelming and frustrating. We were having a conversation about something in her life and she is trying to make an important decision about what she's going to do about this thing. And her comment was, well, I just don't know what I want. I know that she's getting that everywhere out there in the world. Everybody's asking her, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And I said, that's not a very good question because it's not a principled question. The right question is, what could I do that would make me feel good about myself? It's a way better question. So when you listen to the world and you follow their advice, it often wreaks havoc. I mean, there are people in my life right now that I can think of that they or someone that they know made decisions based on those questions. What do you want? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. And it did not work out well. In some cases, it really shattered lives. And that's so unfortunate. But there was a woman who a few years ago, she knew about the academy. She didn't really want to do it. And she had someone in her neighborhood that did the program. And this friend had mentioned to her a couple times, this is really benefiting my life. I'm really learning to think differently. I'm really learning to see the world differently. And this woman, we'll call her Sally. Sally told her friend, I don't need more self help in my life. I don't need more people telling me what to do because all I do is try stuff and then it doesn't work. And every time I read that stuff or try that stuff, it just makes me feel worse about myself. And she's not the only one. There are a lot of women who have said this kind of thing. But luckily, her friend prevailed. Her friend was able to share enough information with her that it convinced Sally that she should get involved. And ironically, Sally was in a marriage and in a life that actually from the outside looked very put together. Sally was the kind of woman who had bent quite a bit of college herself, whose husband was a brilliant and successful entrepreneur. They had several small, beautiful children. They were, religiously affiliated. They were actually very beautiful people. They had a lot of friendships. They had connections in the community. And even just in their mid 30s, they were very financially successful, had this big, beautiful home, had lots of extended family connections. Their life looked very put together. It looked like they had everything going for them. And yet, this woman, Sally, was silently crying inside. She had been on the brink of divorce for years. The people closest to her knew this, but many other people didn't. And she just kept saying, he doesn't spend enough time at home and we just can't get along. I just think that divorce is the only answer for us. In the meantime, she had, unfortunately, these bad thoughts about herself. Why didn't she have her life put together when all these other people on socials looked like they had their lives put together? And it was just such a painful situation to be in, to have everybody looking at her life thinking that it was so perfect and yet knowing that deep down inside there was real deep trouble. She didn't know how to navigate it, that she didn't really like herself, she didn't really know herself, she didn't really love herself, and that her marriage was actually bad, like unhappy, that she was very unfulfilled in her marriage. She got involved with the academy, and as she learned to see herself differently, as she learned these tools that I learned, as she gained knowledge about what truth is and how it makes us free, she came to understand a very important principle, and that was that she was expecting her husband to meet needs that she could only meet for herself, and that she had been silently blaming him for many, many years for many of the problems in their relationship where it was actually not his responsibility to do that for her. In fact, he couldn't do those things for her. As she learned to think differently about herself and to think differently about her husband, and to think differently about their relationship. As she saw truth, as she practiced it, everything changed. Later on, someone in her life asked her, "How is your marriage?" And she said, "Oh, it's night and day different. It is so much better, so much happier, and so much more fulfilling." And they asked her, "Why? What changed?" She said, "I did this program and I learned to see him and myself through the lens of truth." She didn't say it quite like that, but that's basically what happened. And I learned that I need to care for myself and not blame him when I don't feel the way I want to feel. So transformational. That's the difference between information and advice and principles, because principles are timeless truths that work every time for everyone. And it's so important that we understand the difference. That's how we learn how to discern. That's how we begin to understand how we can actually really transform the situation permanently, because principles are timeless, they never change, and they always work. You and I are not above or below the truth. The truth is always available to us and it will always make us free. We haven't been given the tools. We don't understand what they are. We don't know how to identify them, how to latch onto them, and how to utilize them to be set free. Our modern education and self-help really focus on tactics, they focus on coping, and they focus on symptom management predominantly. That's not to say that these programs or therapists don't now and again say something that is a truth and that is timeless and that is helpful, but their inability to actually identify those things, to call them out properly, to discern them for themselves, and our inability to be able to do that is crippling everyone. Because principles actually help us to govern reality, and they work even when we believe that they won't. Most women have never been taught this because our education doesn't teach us this anymore. And we are outsourcing all the pieces of our lives to authorities. We can't be the experts in our own lives who know how to discern what we're being told, even by the best authorities in the world. And I could tell you all kinds of stories. I think I recently told you, I can't remember if I shared it on the podcast or not, the story of taking my daughter to two different professionals for her ankle when it was injured. and they said diametrically different things. The first doctor told us that she needed to have a false ligament put in, major surgery with a year recovery. And the other doctor told her he could do a quick cleanup, do PRP therapy, and she would be back at the gym. And guess what? Second doctor was right. And that's the one we and that's not to say that the first doctor couldn't have been right as well, but how do you discern as a mom? Like, how do you make the decision? How do you know? How do you know who to listen to? How do you know how to sort through all of these authorities? And I'll tell you what, I mentioned this before. We're going to talk about this more this year, and I hope to get some experts on the show to talk to us too. But the feminist movement did us very few favors. You might make the case that they helped equal out some of the pay scale. They made different job opportunities more available to women and opened them up. But fundamentally, it did a lot of damage to our psyche, to how we think about ourselves, to how we manage ourselves in the world. So that's why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if you're feeling stuck and frustrated, it is not your fault. Even though you're putting in all the effort and you're trying all these different resources, there are fundamental, important reasons why those resources aren't working for you. You don't need to be more motivated and you don't need to try harder. You don't need to overhaul your life to become the expert in your own life. You just need to learn how to see and think differently. In a few weeks, I'm going to be offering a free class where we're going to dive deeper into these concepts, where we'll have the time for me to tell you some key stories, to teach you some important concepts, and to show you how you can change your life. You can really turn that corner that you've wanted to turn. You can begin to feel powerful and like the expert in your own life through just some small changes that I'm going to show you. I really would love for you to be there. And if you're not on our email list, make sure you get on it. Of course, you can go to get the free audiobook right now, but you can just opt in so that when registration opens for this free class, that you can be there and we can spend the time we need to spend deep diving into all of this. And I can give you the tools, the resources that you need so that life can be better and this pain can end. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time.